For the Investing News Network, I am Brian McGovern. I'm here today with J.R. Rahn, co-founder and co-CEO of MindMed. J.R., thank you so much for your time. J.R., let's start with the company. Tell me a little bit about what's been different for you guys since going public earlier this year.
It's accelerated our operations. Being a public company allows us to access capital that we weren't able to access as a private company. And it also, I think, gives us a profile as we look to start some of these programs in the psychedelic space with organizations that take us a little bit more seriously now, being the first drug development company that's focused on psychedelics to list publicly.
What would you say are the important things that investors should know about before jumping into the sector? Those who may be looking right now, but are still a little curious about what's happening.
The most sort of seminal question that an investor should ask is, what is the approach that the company I'm investing into has to solve a problem? And what is the outcome that they are ultimately looking for? And so in the psychedelic space, what we are solving for as a problem is mental health and addiction. And there's various indications that we're looking at, but that is the overall reaching societal problem that MindMed is addressing. And the way that we're going to address it is through FDA clinical trials to ultimately get these substances that happen to be psychedelic substances approved as FDA medicines. That is our objective. That is our process. And I think there's many ways that the psychedelics space is being approached at the moment. And I think the overarching conclusion, I think, of a lot of very serious companies in this space is that the FDA pathway is the way forward and ultimately will be the way that the most amount of patients can access these medicines.
JR, MindMed has earned a lot of attention thanks to its drug development program. Can you expand on the actual work that takes to build that up, and how has that been affected so far with the pandemic?
Assembling a drug development pipeline is no easy task. Thankfully, MindMed has a great team of executives and employees that have done this before, have created drug development companies, have successfully listed those companies, and put drugs onto the market or gotten them approved. So a lot of what we did when we first set up MindMed was to think of a strategy on where in the psychedelic medicine space can we have the biggest impact? And we should develop programs around that, because the impact, if it's big, is actually also a very big business. And so we wanted to solve large problems in society that had large patient populations. So if you look at anxiety, for example, we brought in, that is 40 million Americans every year are suffering from anxiety. That's a big problem. And we recently, through the University Hospital Basel license acquisition, were able to bring in a phase 2 study of testing experiential doses of LSD for treating anxiety. And we will be looking to get a analysis of that trial in the medium term, and then use that data to form an eventual commercial phase 2 trial of anxiety with the FDA. And so it's strategic acquisitions like that where you can jumpstart these development programs and get into later stage programs, because what we really view as a company as the inflection point is getting trials into phase 2s on specific indications using psychedelic inspired medicines. And we're doing exactly that. We now have we're preparing a phase 2B trial that we plan to go to the FDA and seek their permission to open up this IND with them. We are currently working on a phase 2A that we anticipate beginning in the end of Q4 2020 for microdosing of LSD. And we also are working on our phase 1 studies of our 18MC program in addiction. In addition to that, we also have collaborations with the University Hospital Basel working on more exploratory drug development programs that target things like cluster headaches and are looking at MDMA and DMT as potential other substances that we can use in our commercial drug trials. So we really run the gambit of having multiple assets in various stages, from early phase 1 studies up until starting very soon a phase 2B study in LSD anxiety, using it for anxiety. So I think when somebody invests into our company, they know that there's a pipeline there that has potential on multiple indications and multiple drug development programs. That is a good way to, I think, invest into this effectively a new asset class of medicines, which we call psychedelic inspired medicines.
You talked about the process of the drug development program. Can you expand on the goals for the industry? Would you say that at the end of the day, for a lot of the drug development companies in the psychedelic space, the end goal is to be acquired by a big name pharma one day eventually?
Look, I think both will happen at the same time. These programs take large amounts of capital, and we are going to fund the programs in a way that we find most efficient. And so if a pharmaceutical company wants to partner with us on a specific project, we're certainly open to that and are looking at it as a strategy on how we will fund some of these programs in the future. At the same time, I think as a company, we are early in a brand new asset class and space that has massive potential to become a very big medicine market. And what we will do is continue to gather data to prove that that is going to be possible. And in doing so, we are pioneering this space and we're becoming a leader in this space along with other companies like Atai and Compass Pathways that have really taken leadership positions here. And so it's inevitable that large pharmaceutical companies will become interested in the work that all of us are doing. And we plan to figure out ways to collaborate with them. I don't think that people should constantly fear pharma or big pharma. I think that they actually can make great partners. And we also have the opportunity here to really create a new paradigm on how we treat patients. These substances offer an amazing opportunity to doctors and therapists on how to actually deal and heal people that have serious mental illnesses that are not being sufficiently treated with existing medications that are on the market. And so we are really looking to redefine how mental health is addressed both in America and globally.
Now, JR, on a personal note, can you tell us more about your own background in tech and how that feeds into the work that you do at MindMed now?
Sure. It's actually really an origin story for the company in many ways. I think my journey and struggle with mental health and addiction was very much a part of why MindMed was set up. I was sitting in Silicon Valley, struggling with addiction, struggling with mental health issues, and watching all of my friends create technologies that were going to put hundreds of millions of people out of work over the next 10 years. And I thought to myself during that time, well, there's, mental health and addiction clearly are big problems. They're a personal problem for me. There needs to be better solutions out there because what the treatment that I was getting wasn't solving the problem. And so that really became a personal mission to find new ways to treat mental health. But also I realized that, if a lot of people were going to lose their jobs over the next few years, I think something like 800 million people were going to lose their job due to AI and automation by 2030. That was my thesis. I had read a report about it, and I said, wow, people are going to wake up in the morning and go, what is my purpose, right? And I think that mental health and addiction are going to skyrocket. Well, that all just got fast forwarded, right? So COVID accelerated that whole process. 40 million plus Americans are out of work now. The economy is in no good shape. We're also in isolation. When folks are in isolation, addiction can skyrocket 19-fold. That's based on scientific models that demonstrate that. And so what we are really working on as a company ties into, yes, that personal story, and yes, that Silicon Valley mindset that we need to collect data to solve these problems. But it also required a drug development expertise. And that's why I co-founded this company with Stephen Hurst, who's a drug development expert and has worked on many drugs and many programs over the last 40 plus years. And so we've built up an amazing team that comes out of Silicon Valley and also out of the pharmaceutical and drug development world. Because we really need to take that traditional approach to getting these substances through clinical trials, treating them as medicines, but proving to both the society and the government, the FDA, that these can actually be medicines that can help a whole lot of people. And so I think our approach is the best out there, and we are ultimately pioneering a whole new asset class of medicines.
Okay, I want to thank you again for your time today, JR. And thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel for way more interviews. See you next time.